By the time you're sharing a kitchen or sharing a bathroom or sharing a bedroom, you run into these things very quickly. And if they're both the same, it's hard to say which is better, having both the same or both opposite, different. It's just, there's such a spectrum. There's 144 types if you're just taking, well, there's 12 types for the signs on the IC. So between two people, there's 144 different combinations of how the motivations affect each other. When it's an air sign, you're motivated by ideas, by thinking, by communicating, by expressing yourself, not so much by doing and showing, by thinking, by expressing, by what you're interested in. Wow. So you start thinking, who's motivated to study or to learn, who's motivated to go compete or do things. You see this motivation. The motivation will run into the rest of your chart and be supported or not supported, or various degrees of that. So if your sun is below the horizon, you're much more inclined to make subjective things important and have a stronger relationship to the IC. If the sun's above the horizon, the outer factors are going to be more important to you for gaining your confidence, but then it's a bit more effort to maintain your personal motivation in the odds of what everyone else thinks, how everyone else thinks you should be motivated by job or whatever. But whatever you put out in life, and as soon as it affects other people, even a smile, even a thought that someone's good or bad, even a thought, it's going to come back to you. And it's going to affect the quality of what feedback you receive. Wow. So no matter what you've received, good, bad energy, someone gave you something, someone took something away, your heart break, it couldn't happen if you didn't have it coming. So like either you pushed something out and it happened, or you didn't push it out and you didn't take care of these things, and you've had a negative response from the other side. So coming back in, how to fix a broken heart, When you get it into the water signs, these are very judgmental signs. They're emotional, judgmental signs. They're not motivated by being rational. They're not motivated by what you're doing. They're motivated by how they feel and their emotions, and they're judged. They're motivated. It can be sensual, but they're motivated by this emotional quality. This irrational quality has to feel okay. That's my see. If I'm with someone and they're uptight, I'm instantly on it. What are you doing? How come you're uptight? Like, let's fix this. Get out of it. So I'll make jokes to get out of it or whatever. But if someone's set on being in that way, then it starts to oppress me. Okay, so but the water signs, cardinal, fixed, mutable. But this water element is the judgmental, oversensitive, very impressionable side. So I'm going to take things in. It's going to really emotionally affect me. Say you don't like me, it's going to personally affect me. Not rationally. It's going to affect, if my emotions are affected like that, I'm not going to be thinking that straight. But at the same time, I won't be projecting the intuitions or other things out, like as well. That's when it's feeling good. So in a very rational person, motivated person is together with someone who's very emotionally personalized, emotionally motivated. Whoa, you can grow a lot from that. It's dealable, but it's different than having both the same. So I'm not trying to define these. I'm just trying to work through it so you see the logic and you see how it's thinking and you see how it evolves. By the time it gets to earth signs, these are people motivated to be practical, down to earth, to be physical, to be secure, to be comfortable, to have money, to have things. They're motivated by practical things. Well, imagine a practical, down-to-earth person wanting the comforts, being together with someone who's an irrational, emotional person who just wants to feel okay, good or bad. And the other person doesn't care if you feel okay. They just want to have the comforts around them. You start to see how this affects relationships and how people react to each other. So when you're looking at it quickly, first you can go through this in a few seconds, but then you have to keep working on how each one's working on your motivation. And as you know a person, these things click in, you begin to see them. So when you take the sign, each rulership, if your IC is in Cancer, you're going to be motivated by your moon, by security, by mom, by the home. You're It's irrational. You're going to be needing to feel secure, and you're going to be motivated to get that. You can take on a career or whatever, but it's only so you can get a better house or a better place. But it also means there's a very strong influence of the mother and the past, and you could be motivated by memories or something you did in the past. I got to try and get this again. Oh, the old music, all the old songs, all the old cabin, all the old wife or husband. You know, it could be like this sense of security, the moon. So if the memories aren't secure, if the family's insecure, if you're not eating right, boy, it's going to have a deep effect on your motivation. So if your IC is in Cancer, you're going to really need to live right, eat right, sleep right, have good hobbies, good habits, or those bad habits will trip you up right away. Smoking, bad, any of them, any bad habit there will affect your motivation and really have a profound effect on whether anyone else can get close to you or not. Because it'll affect how you project those habits. You're projecting those bad habits out. People are reacting to bad habits. What's coming back? You're not getting good feedback. And if you don't get good feedback, you're going to feel displaced and insecure and upset and want to go somewhere else or hide away. Turn on the TV. Just get into the computer game. You know, like, so you can hide away here, but really it's like a brooding. It's like going within. But when it's confident, when it's positive, and your inner motivation is clear and your integrity is good, wow, how much more can you accomplish in life? So sometimes to get the job and career you want, it's not about fitting in. For some people it is, but really it's about building up skills, building up yourself, and moving in a way that you like to get what you want out there. But for that, you have to project your energy out, and then other people react to it. You know, I'm in a career that astrology, everybody generally puts it down into what's that, you don't believe in that or whatever. So I don't get so much positive energy out there. But if someone meets me and on one-on-one, they start to see what I do, astrology and how I work, they're inspired by it. They see, well, he knows a lot. Then they start thinking about it, and I put the energy out more. Then I start getting good response coming back from that. That encourages me to go further. But I haven't worked for other people in my life. My planets are all down low, mostly down low. And this motivation and expressing myself is it's one of the very specific typings. So you see rising, setting, above, below, intuitive thinking, sensation thinking. Those are the first three categories. You look, the IC, well, you can't use intuition, sensation thinking. So that's when you're working with the houses. But the IC affects the intuition. The ascendant, the thinking, the MC, the sensation, the descendant, the feeling, and the feelings fall into each one. So the motivation will affect the ascendant, the thinking will affect the midheaven, the sensation will affect the descendant, the feelings will affect the motivation. So it goes around that wheel. Okay, when you put the IC into the sun, into Leo, you're motivated by your own pride, by glory, by being best, by being noble. I gotta have a nice home. I gotta be proud of where I'm living. It's got to make a mark. It's got to look better than the neighbors. I got to be into things that I got to really, I'm not motivated until I'm confident about something, until I can win something or be best at something. If I can't be best, why would I do anything? This is the sun rulership. So once you see the motivation, then you could look, if it's in Cancer, then you would look to see where the moon, first you have to see just the sign on the houses. Take some time to think about it. Then you see where the moon is, and you start seeing how the moon is reinforcing it or not reinforcing it. Next layer of understanding. Same with the sun. If Leo is there, you're going to go to the sun rulership. You're going to see the need to be proud and confident. Then you're going to see where the sun is. If you have Leo on the ascendant, on the IC, and your sun's in the 12th house, that's going to be a complicated place because you want to project. You might project out too much and alienate people, but there's going to be a need for transcendence or some restraint with that sun about what you put out. Okay, and if you're doing it well, you get the blessings of that planet. If you're doing it poorly, you'll get the curse of that planet or the void or the negative side of that planet, adding to your motivation. Someone's in a war zone out in the world is in a terrible place or whatever. They're not eating, they're sick, they're on the streets. They can't possibly study or learn things. You have to take away the other world to make one feel a little bit okay before one can begin to intuitively begin to learn and study things. You have to have that little extra energy inside. Otherwise, you're just dealing with surviving out in the world. Now, on a somewhat commonplace day to day, it's kind of like that. But when you add, I mean, your spirit can work out in any of these. There's a spiritual path in every one of the houses. But if you have a spiritual belief and it's part of your motivation, it really increases the scope that you're living on in your life. It really expands it incredibly. Of course, at the same time, if you don't have that inner spiritual thing, but you have a sense of job and status and authority, that could really increase how you manipulate and use people and what you do out in the world. So we're just glancing in. We'll come around these things again when we start interpreting charts and that. But if you have Mercury or if you have Gemini or Virgo on the IC, they're both mutable signs. One's air, one's earth, but they're ruled by Mercury. You're motivated by ideas and by making sense out of things. If you run across someone, you can't talk to someone, or you can't think about something, and no one's listening to you, it's a big problem. But it's also always trying to adapt and figure out new ways of coming at things. So it's hard to be consistent when you're so curious. So you expect that person to be motivated by who they know, what they're talking about, what they're learning, what they're seeing. Yeah, you know this, hey, you know that, making sense and connections between things. If they do it well, they're writers or teachers. If they do it wrong, they may be lucky to just drive a truck. But your communication, the way you express yourself, is the third house. It's linked up to the motivation. So if you're not motivated well, or the attitude, the planetary rulership, if Mercury's motivation, it's important to have your education and to think right. Otherwise, you won't be communicating properly, or you won't be living right or healthy. So the Gemini and the Virgo, both ruled by Mercury, when it's there, this restlessness, this curiousness, always thinking about where you're coming from, always trying to assess it. I mean, it's restless, you hardly ever sit still. That's very different than someone who might have Taurus there or Leo there. So when you get up to the Venus, the Taurus or the Libra, you're motivated by love, by beauty, by being appreciated. You really want to be liked or have things you like to justify things before you're going to do anything. So you're motivated by collecting, by getting things, by attracting things. If you think you're going to get something, it's going to be really easy to charm or do anything as long as you know you're getting the reward. You're motivated by receiving the reward, whether it's physical, whether it's social, whether it's emotional. You want that feedback. When you get it, wow, life is great. When you don't, whoa, how could the world do that? So Venus, when it's good, that's beauty, that's sharing, that's peaceful side, it's artistic side. When it's negative, it's lustful, it's envious, it's vanity. All of these things can affect your motivation. So you see how this starts to include all the circumstances. It starts to affect all kinds of circumstances in life. If the IC gets into Aries or Scorpio, the rulership is Mars. You're motivated to do things. Get off your butt, do things. Oh, I grew up, my dad used to have an expression, don't walk, don't run, disappear. If you see us and we're hanging around, he just hit us and say, get out of here, I don't want to see you. Go out and play, go and do something. I'd be mad, but I'd get out of there fast. So that's just, I got the Scorpio Mars, but in relationships, I would push for the relationship where it's in there, I'm doing everything within it, I'm doing everything, but I'm almost over controlling it by doing too much. Not always letting the other person, so there's a competition there, who's doing what? Same with Mars and Aries, but it's more independent. But Aries or Scorpio both have this, they're motivated by action. So whether they're acting properly or nobly, then that motivation is good. If they're acting ignobly or they're doing things that hurt people, it's going to come back faster. If anger hits them and they get motivated by anger, they're going to put out anger. And boy, what's going to come back? So you're seeing how this is the jump from the practical to the spiritual that sits inherently in this, and looking at these, and especially the IC. You can see, well, which way am I taking? How am I using? So it's not a definition of someone, but it's a tuning into a whole texture of how someone is that you wouldn't necessarily always be clearly see outside. When your IC gets to Sag or to Pisces and it's ruled by Jupiter, you're motivated by understanding You want to travel, you want to see things, you want to live in, it's Jupiter rule, you want to live in a beautiful place, in a big place, you want to have room, you don't want to be fenced in, but you're motivated by understanding. I understand what everybody's doing, I understand what I have to do, I understand this, I can see this happens, I take this in, I'm trying to assimilate it, and then if I can understand, I can do things. If I can't understand, what am I going to do? Of course, when it's negative, that Jupiter rulership can be overindulgence. I'm drinking too much. I understand, but I'm drinking. Who cares? Everybody's drinking, or I'm smoking up, or whatever. But when it's affecting your motivation, when it's working right, you really get motivated to include others and do things. When it's negative, it creates guilt, sorrows, exaggerations, and a whole lot of misunderstanding. If you're motivated by misunderstanding, how do you get out of it until you fix your understanding? How do you fix your understanding until you start living right? So each of these points has a special puzzle. So important. When you put the IC up to Capricorn and Aquarius, it's going to be Saturn ruled. These are people who are going to be motivated by responsibility, respect, authority, discipline. So there's a need to personally be self-disciplined. But if the father is negative, or there's really harsh things, it could be motivated by depression. It could be really, I'm living in depression. You might not see it till you live with a person. When you're down in their personal world, you can see that depression or that sadness. So some people can be really super accomplished outwardly, but boy, if they're feeling depressed inside, no matter what, they can still have a major depression. So these things will play it in lifetime. Like, I'm just reading today about the super Korean pop star, and he killed himself. He just was too alone and isolated and said, I'm out of here. A lot of people died before they're 30. If they're famous beforehand, they think, I can't do anything else, I can't grow up, it's over. And 30 becomes a big, we get into this later in timings, but the motivation to do what your father wants, or to be responsible, to be respectful. You have a serious side on the home. You're measuring about how to hold things together, how to be responsible, how to get respect, or you're motivated by not getting the respect, or by not having the right job. You have a Saturn factor there, and you have to come to terms with the Saturn factor inwardly. You need some personal disciplines before you express yourself right. So if you see there's a public speaking contest at school and all the people are coming to do that, you're going to see the different attitudes of what people have to overcome to do that public speaking. Or anything, take the job, do anything. So this is the usefulness of the IC. It's where you're coming from. It's what you do, it's what you feel when you get up. It's how you're going to respond. So if it's Saturn and someone says you didn't do the job right, it's going to bug you. Or there's more demands and you're not living up to it right, it's going to bug you deeply. And it's going to affect, you're going to make you more insecure when you go to project out, because whatever you're motivated by, it's going to be projected out to the ascendant. It's going to start to show to people on the ascendant. At midnight, you don't see it, but by the time it gets up the ascendant, you do. So anything that you're motivated by starts the wheel in motion and starts expressing it, putting it out. It starts showing on your face if you had a good night's sleep or not, if you're happy or sad. Boy, you can look in someone's face and see it in a second. That's the ascendant. How come you got the face that you got? What happened that made you feel like this? How come you're not so confident? How come you're looking sick? Or like all of these things we see on the ascendant. We put out. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so we're at 8 o'clock. So we got to switch to the different signs. I mean, it would be easy. It's easy to spend 2 or 3 hours on one person's chart, just looking at the IC and taking time to look at each of these categories. It becomes so alive. It's not like you're trying to define it. You're just tuning into these levels of depth. And then imagining how it affects their life. If you know someone, you see how they're being affected, and suddenly you say, wow, that's what's motivating them. And by seeing that, it's making sense of what they're doing or what they're not doing out there.